The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares mostly trade lower, mirroring Wall Street's weakness as investors worry about the health of banks' loan portfolios. South Korea's Kospi is in the green, while most other regional markets are in the red. In the currency market, the U.S. dollar gains against the South Korean won and the Thai baht, but slips against most other Asian currencies. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, falls against the greenback. In commodities, gold rises nearly 2%, while oil prices move lower. In crypto, Bitcoin edges up 0.5%, and Ethereum adds close to 2%. The Justice Department asserts flood control contractor couple Sara and Curly Discaya cannot demand witness protection in exchange for their testimony into the corruption scandal. Prosecutor General Anthony Fadulyon asserts applicants for the Witness Protection Program cannot dictate terms to the Justice Department. He adds they are the ones who will evaluate the applicant and determine if they're qualified to be admitted into the program. On Thursday, the Discaya couple told the Independent Commission for Infrastructure that they will no longer cooperate with its probe after not getting an assurance they'll have blanket immunity and won't face jail time. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon vows to immediately remove and charge any official in his department found to have conflicts of interest. Dizon ordered an internal review after Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste claimed that some DPWH officials are themselves contractors and some people in Dizon's team are asking for kickbacks. The lawmaker dared Secretary Dizon to verify whether any of his appointees were involved. Former Senator Antonio Trillanes will file a plunder complaint against Senator Bong Go before the Office of the Ombudsman. This is in connection with the government contracts awarded to the company owned by Go's father and brother worth billions of pesos. Trillanes brushed off the senator's claim, insisting he had no hand in government contracts.
Itong kanyang mga sinasabi na wala siyang kinalaman doon ay malaking kalokohan yan. Isa silang sindikato kaya kasama siya sa kaso na yan. May mga bagong mga kontrata na nakita kasi yung mga dokumento na attachment ko nung una, mga annexes, hanggang 2018 lang or just before I ended my term in the Senate.
Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco welcomes the relaunch of electronic visas for Chinese nationals set to commence in November. Frasco said the suspension of the e-visa system in 2023 had a significant impact on the country's ability to meet tourism targets, particularly from one of its strongest pre-pandemic markets. She noted that the Department of Tourism had long advocated for the reinstatement of the e-visa system since its suspension. The relaunch responds to market demand, industry feedback, and aims to address a gap that has limited regional competitiveness for nearly 3 years. Let's get a reaction on this. We'll be speaking with Harold Atondo. He's the Secretary General of the Philippine Tour Operators Association. He's also the president of ATD Experience Travel Agency. Hi, Harold. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, Mia. Good afternoon to everyone.
Yes, can you first explain to us how this e-visa system, how does this work? And do you expect a deluge of Chinese tourists now that it's reinstated?
Of course, the e-visa actually works for securing a much more easier or eased way of visiting the country. Normally, it will take 4 to 5 business days only, rather than going through a stringent personal individual visa application. This is most likely applicable for those group coming into the country. and for short-term visit. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually been implemented before 2023. It has a 14 days validity, and it's not transferable, non-extendable. So it will give the chance for any nationals, particularly for Chinese market, to come here in the Philippines to enjoy what it is that we have to offer to the market.
By how many do you expect the increase will be in Chinese tourists once the e-visa system is reinstated?
Actually, I would like to be very optimistic about it, but I want to make sure that we are going to be a gradual increase rather than an influx of surge of tourists right away. Um, of course, we want to be database when it comes to data-driven base rather when it comes to our promotions and make sure that the implementation in terms of the integrity of this visa is securing the e-visa would be highly implemented. This is an intersectoral what you call intersectoral effort. This is not only an effort of the Department of Tourism. Of course, we know that tourism is for the promotion and policy making, but the implementation of this one would solely rely on the DFA and then the Bureau of Immigration, all of these things, including the DICT, to make sure that everything that coming in here are, properly scanned, and there will be no third-party agencies that will handle this other than the DFA.
Okay, Harold, but will there be safeguards in this e-visa system to protect the country from the undesirables? I think dito nagka-problema before, di ba?
Yes, exactly. I hope so. I've heard that during the some of the talks regarding this, that there will be um, collaboration between the VFS. So there will be some biometrics involved, and then it is connected to the Bureau of Immigration. So at least we are on that security stage that will make sure that coming in here are really going to do the tourist and will not overstay and will not have any previous records of overstaying or illegal activities that happened in other countries, not only in the Philippines.
Yes. Will travel agencies or tour operators have a part in these safeguards in making sure na walang undesirables, walang Chinese citizens with questionable background or criminal background?
For our part, because in the private sector, of course, we are kumbaga, we are receiving the tourists, right? But of course, it is important that we educate the public and we also be vigilant about if we encounter anyone or if there's anyone that we know who are abusing the visa, then we have an authority to report at, because that is very important that everyone is involved in terms of being vigilant. Other than that, I think the tour operators and all the travel agencies in the country are very much prepared, and we've been waiting for this for a long time. It's been like 3 years, more than 3 years since we last encounter a major visits from the China market, including the tour guides. We have a lot of tour guides on standby that are able to speak, bilingual, and the destination, of course, is ready.
Yeah. Harold, very quickly, who are our top tourists right now?
South Koreans and United States.
And
The Balikbayans.
what are their favorite spots here in the Philippines? Which spots do they frequently visit?
Of course, we still have our key markets like Boracay, Palawan, Cebu, Bohol. Those four, but we have to include also Subic is also one of the top destinations for our Balikbayans and also for our international market.
All right. So we will be soon welcoming Chinese tourists. Do you think there are enough flights between the Philippines and China?
Right now, I think it's part of the preparation. It's not yet fully implemented, but some of the airlines like Cebu Pacific and Air Asia are planning to resume there are direct flights from China to the Philippines. Right now, we have at least like 6 or 7 direct flights from our flagship carrier, Philippine Airline, but it's not that frequent as before the pandemic. Now, I think it is about 3 to 4 times a week only. But of course, with the data, again, if the demands will be going high for these Chinese nationals coming in here for e-visa, we really hope that more flights will be given to the market.
Right. Thanks so much for joining us today, Harold. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mai. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Better governance, that's what top economic experts say will drive the country's next wave of growth. A former U.S. ambassador and a former socio-economic planning secretary led a discussion at a major economic forum hosted by one of the country's biggest banks. The details from Paulo Barcelon.
Former Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Shelito Habito and ex-U.S. Ambassador to the Asian Development Bank Curtis Chin believe governance is the key for the Philippine economy to weather both internal and external headwinds. Speaking at the Security Bank Economic Forum, Dr. Habito and Ambassador Chin weighed in on how the country can address the impact of Trump tariffs and political pressure at home due to the flood control scandal.
And then it's the big bad G word, governance. So that is where we have to be really convincing that we can definitively fix this problem in a way that will convince not only foreign investors but even our own domestic business community.
Habito predicts inflation rates will ease between 2 to 3% between the end of the year and 2026, but it will remain vulnerable to geopolitical and internal risks, such as policies on agriculture like the current import ban on rice, a move which affects consumers and driving food prices up.
We have to look simply at the greatest good for the greatest number. That should be our standard for good policy. Now, the greatest good for the greatest number means looking at consumers as well as with farmers. And therefore, an import ban, which is of course supposedly helping farmers, is going to be hurting the wider majority of Filipinos.
Habito also underscored the need for government to address joblessness and job mismatch. He warns this can drive unemployment rates to within 3.5 to 4.5%. Chin also noted that while tariffs and geopolitical tensions continue to shape global markets, ASEAN countries must build resilience from within.
I would just encourage everyone to get engaged and involved and do what you can to fight, bureaucracy, regulation, inequality, and corruption in your own backyard. Even in your own companies, not that you're corrupt companies, but think through, how do we give all of our employees, our colleagues a voice? Is it only those that know the CEO can talk? I don't know. But for me, this is a critical issue because it's one that you all know.
Chin emphasized that lasting growth depends less on who sits in the White House and more on the strength of local leadership, businesses, and communities. The two experts also said economies in ASEAN should brace for the impact of more goods coming into its borders as a result of Trump's tariffs, and that the region should take advantage of opportunities the tariffs present, such as foreign investments relocating to the region, opportunities to move up the value chain, and stronger regional cooperation and supply chain resilience efforts. Paulo Barcelon, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a short break. More stories are coming up next. You're watching Business Brief. You're back on Business Brief. Megawide Construction Corporation acquires a minority stake in listed affiliate Citicore Renewable Energy Corporation, taking 1.1 billion shares in a block sale with Citicore Power Incorporated. The company says the shares represent nearly 10% of CREC's outstanding stock and settle most of the advances within the Megawide Citicore Group. with the remaining 1.5 billion pesos expected by year-end. Megawide Chairman and CEO Edgar Saavedra says the deal strengthens the company's balance sheet, boosts shareholder value, and supports Megawide's growth agenda for 2025 and beyond. A global strategist is sounding the alarm, saying governments should fix their systems first before embracing artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. Paolo Barcelon filed this exclusive report.
DigiCon 2025 keynote speaker Dex Hunter Torek has a warning. Tech won't solve a country's problems if its systems are already broken. The former communications lead for Meta, SpaceX, and Google tells the Bilyonaryo news channel nations that merely digitize old, flawed structures risk falling behind in the global race for innovation.
I think the societies which do opt for that more ambitious, harder path, they will be the ones who truly are successful in every way, including economically. If you want to be, a country, a community, an industry that leads the world in the next chapter, you are in a huge competitive fight now with companies and societies all over the world who will have access to the same technologies.
From protests in Indonesia and Nepal to public outrage over the flood control scandal here at home, political and economic instability is a growing concern across Asia. Hunter Torek says governments must look inward and use technology to root out waste, corruption, and red tape.
You need to really think how much within my organization, in my society, in my community, how much is actually being done right now in a quite wasteful way? What is inefficient? What is being done in a bureaucratic way? We should be using AI to attack every single one of those problems, because ultimately it's all about speeding things up. It's about meaning, how can I get my people's imaginations and potential focused on the right things sooner?
He describes the next generation of artificial intelligence as a great equalizer, a tool that will be cheaper, more accessible, and in some cases, even more capable than human institutions.
You're going to get access to intelligence that will be ubiquitous, will be affordable, will be in many cases superior to existing human institutions and workers. And this is the challenge. We need to be taking the future really seriously and moving really fast now to think, how do I get those capabilities as quickly as possible?
But Hunter Torek stresses all that technology will only work if the systems that govern it are strong.
To have that ethical future, we need to rapidly increase the understanding of what AI might do well, but also what it might do badly, and then really have the systems in place to actually make then the right decisions where you're balancing against a range of probabilities.
The tech expert also believes the future won't be defined by who has the most advanced technology, but by who uses it to fix their systems first. Paolo Barcelon, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The economy may be losing some momentum, but officials say growth is still within reach. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman says spending is expected to normalize in the fourth quarter. She notes, however, that public infrastructure outlays may temporarily slow as agencies, particularly the Public Works Department, review their projects to avoid a repeat of the flood control scandal. Finance Chief Ralph Recto earlier warned that growth likely cooled in the third quarter and could stay soft until early next year. Economic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan meanwhile said that the Development Budget Coordination Committee will wait for third quarter data next month before adjusting targets. Oil prices are expected to move mixed next week. Jetty Petroleum President Leo Bellas forecasts diesel prices to drop by 60 to 80 centavos per liter, while gasoline prices may rise by up to 20 centavos per liter. Bellas says demand concerns and geopolitical developments overseas could drive the diesel price down and push gasoline prices slightly higher. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warns that the ongoing federal government shutdown is taking a heavy toll on the economy, initially estimated at $15 billion a day and later clarified to $15 billion a week by a Treasury official. The Treasury official said the revised estimate was based on data from the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Bessent warned that the shutdown was starting to, quote, cut into the muscle of the U.S. economy, urging Democrats to be heroes and work with Republicans to end the stalemate.
We call on the moderate Democrats in the Senate to be heroes. Be heroes. Break away from the hive of radicalism and do something for the American people, because we are starting to cut into the muscle here. We believe that the shutdown may start costing the U.S. economy up to $15 billion a day, and this is a decision the Democrats are making.
Philippine shares dropped for the second straight day. The PSEI closed nearly 0.1% lower at 60.89. Majority of the sectoral indices were in the red, with property falling the most at over 1%. Decliners outnumbered advancers 109 to 83, with value turnover reaching 4.4 billion pesos. Week on week, the PSEI rose 0.8%. The day's most active stocks were mixed, with Philippine 7 Corporation falling the most at nearly 4%. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again next week as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Happy weekend.